Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 3 of Fan Friction. I'm your host, Jack Shipley. Welcome to the show. We got a great one for you today. We're going to ask some awesome questions like, who is the most badass woman in television? What show defines family for us? And another great fan-submitted question is coming your way, so thank you for joining us here today. I got some great guests, so let me introduce them to you now. There we go. All right. Our first guest can be seen every week checking the facts on one of our favorite shows, TV Fights, found on the Screen Junkies News channel. He also co-hosts the Con Smash podcast. Please welcome Billy Patterson.
What's up, guys? It's early, and this episode brought to you by Starbucks, because that's the only way I can get through it.
Awesome. They just put a thing on our channel now. We cannot monetize this. Thank you, Billy Business. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. Starting off Season 3 with the bang.
And here to challenge him today, he is the former TUFF champion and host of the DVD Bunker here on our channel. Say hi to Brian Hurst is here.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Welcoming me back after my crushing defeat at the hands of current champion Kimber Barrett.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that show, guys, it's really awesome. We filmed it at Philly Comic-Con actually, I was going to say last year, but it was a couple months ago. It's really worth checking out. It's pretty awesome. And just in case you saw our preview on Twitter, Joe Davis was originally supposed to fight today, but unfortunately, Joe is in Texas, where there's this thing called a hurricane, and it's putting water everywhere. So he apologizes, but he can't make it, but he says hi to everyone. He's fine. His family's fine. Ashley's okay. So we'll be thinking about him during the show. But Brian, thank you for stepping in. We really appreciate it. And finally,
my pleasure.
He's as tough as they come. He handed me my first defeat on my own show and is one of TV Fight's biggest fans. Please welcome back to our show from the internet with no picture, Langely Neely.
Yes, I'm also apparently in the jungle. You can hear all sorts of jungle sounds. But it's good to be back. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to pretend I was on the radio this time. But this should be fun, so let's do it.
Guys, unfortunately, Langley just has the crappiest connection in the world. He even moved since the last time he's been on the show and still has a crappy connection. So we apologize to him for not seeing his face, but we will hear his lovely voice. So lastly, but certainly not least, they host the Odd Shape panel on YouTube, and she is the current champion here on Fan Friction. Say hello to Tom Bennis and your champion, Kimber Barrett.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Guys, it's great to see you.
Use hashtag this is tough or tag me on Twitter, and I will read your tweets.
Awesome. And then later on the show, you guys have a special announcement about a new show you're starting here on TUFF. So please stick with us throughout the entire show so that you guys can find out about the new one. It launches on Thursday. It's going to be pretty awesome. So that's it, guys. We made a couple format changes since the last time we played the game, so we hope you like them today. And we're going to start right off the bat with our new change, a lightning round to start the game. What we're going to do is I'm going to read Billy Business. You're our guest. So I'm going to read you 5 categories, and you're going to pick one, and then I will read that question, and you guys will shout out your answers. First person who says something will get to keep it. So if you say the same answers, guys, the second person would have to repeat. You're going to have 30 seconds and then 20 seconds to argue because there are 3 people fighting. And then the winner will get a point and control of the round 1. So let's begin. Billy, here are your categories: Dr. Evil, Glowing Whiskey Blind Hoodie, The Season is Here, Fact Checker, and Tool Time.
I mean, obviously, I'm going Fact Checker Tool Time.
All right, so you want Tool Time? All right, so guys, here is your question. Shout out your answers when you're ready. What is the best home improvement show?
Oh, Home Improvement. Does that count?
Sure, I'll take it.
This Old House.
I'm trying to think of another.
There are quite a few of them.
I know there's whole channels filled with them.
There are. That's why I was hoping you would have seen one.
But you have to watch those channels to see the show.
Thank you for showing people, Brian, why you lost the belt last season. They don't have to go back and watch the show now.
I'm so glad I could come back and eat this abuse too. I mean, God, I haven't been humble enough for these people. Apparently, I got to sit here and take a beating on top of it.
Both of my losses, sir. So I think I get a little bit of a.
Right. You just well-deserved losses, sir.
Let me repeat the question for you. What is the best home improvement show?
Improvement show.
I'm going to give you 10 seconds.
About House Hunters? Is that
House
count?
Hunters.
Do they fix up those houses? Do they also fix them up? Does that count?
We'll find out in your argument.
Are they,
You have some time to think about it. You'll have 1 minute.
I can't wait.
So Billy Business, you picked home improvement. You're going to go first. Time starts whenever you're ready.
Home Improvement is the ultimate show about home improvement. You know why? Because sometimes home improvement can be a little boring, not the show, the topic. And what better way to get people to take the pill than to put some peanut butter on it? And that is the comedy of Tim Allen and Al Borland. You get to see the man's bathroom, the man's kitchen. You get to see all these amazing products and projects. It teaches you about tools in a way that's easy for you to understand, but also at the same time, you get a lot of comedy.
Time. That's right. I have a bell. Langley, This Old House, whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Okay. Yes, Home Improvement is a wonderful show. All the other shows that are on, you've got the Home Garden Channel, great, but none of them would exist without This Old House. On PBS, you had Bob Vila. He's the precursor to the wonderful Al Borland beard and also his outfit. It was the first of its kind. It also taught people that you just by yourself could actually improve your home without having to pay a lot of money, and showed you how to do it yourself first.
Time. All right. Brian, whenever you're ready.
You know, I am really glad we picked this question because this is like my favorite genre of show. And one of my favorites of this genre is House Hunters. And here's why. You know, these people are not only looking to improve the home they move to, but they're looking to improve their lives. And there's a lot of things going on in these shows. And it's like, oh, fix this little thing. We all know about painting and borders and wallpaper. I want to see how these people grow and change and the way they move on into the next place in their life. Home Improvement is just a sitcom. He barely even fixes anything. He mostly screws things up. And yeah, in the end, off screen, man.
All right. Good job. All right. So, Billy, you're going to get 20 seconds.
Look at this room service.
You're going nice. It's going to feel a little longer, Billy, than you're used to because it's now a 20-second rebuttal. So just keep talking until you hear the bell and whenever you're ready.
You think my show is fantastical? House Hunters? It's like, oh, I have $20 and I want a 5-bedroom sprawling mansion. Plus, they don't even do the improvements. They just say what they would do if they had to buy that house. This Old House is the TV equivalent of Tylenol PM. If I can't sleep, I'll put on This Old House. Everyone knows that Tim Allen or Tim Taylor is better than Bob Vila. That's the whole show.
Langley, This Old House, whenever you're ready.
Wait, is it me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. First off, yeah, This Old House, yeah, it was a long time ago, but it's real. It's not fake. And also the jokes on Home Improvement, which at the time were not all that great. They were very dated, but those jokes wouldn't even work without This Old House. This Old House is the template on which Home Improvement attempts to show you how to improve a home.
Time. All right. Brian, you have the final word. 20 seconds whenever you're ready.
Is obviously the first one of the originators, but that in no way makes it the best. It was a snooze. It was a snore. They even hit old Bob, the other show that we're talking about. I mean, that joke is that guy. And then, you know, with Home Improvement, like I said, projects, but we don't see the full fruition of ideas that we get from something like House Hunters. These people are
all right, so here I'm going to go to Tom and Kimber for them to weigh in on the arguments that they heard and get their opinions. Tom, let's start with you. Who won it for you?
I mean, for sure, especially being a kid who had 3 channels, one of them being PBS. I didn't like definitely and not exist without it. And I don't want to crush Brian's dreams, but House Hunters is totally scripted. It still doesn't have
What? Reality shows aren't real?
Yeah, I know.
So is Home Improvement. So.
Wait, what?
No, I know, but
so you were going with Langley? Did I hear that correctly, Tom?
Yeah, Langley. I'm all way.
Okay. And Kimber?
Yeah, I actually agree, and I liked Langley too for many of the same reasons here. So I would also Langley.
All right. So for me, when I was listening to it, Langley's right. This old house is the main, the originator. I actually used to watch this old house when I was a kid. I used to love watching like Bob Ross and all those kind of shows of like people creating something out of nothing, which explains me a lot probably. But anyway, so I really liked Langley's argument there. Brian, I got to be honest. Yeah, you don't have a chance on this one, but it was a good effort. I appreciate it.
I'm really surprised.
I mean, I'm sorry to tell you that this is a surprise, but no, I think
coming in on
House Hunters doesn't do enough about home improvement. They're really more about home buying. So it does come down between Billy and Langley for me. And while Billy's show isn't necessarily a home improvement show in the traditional sense, I really loved Billy's rebuttals. I thought he was really strong in the rebuttal portion, knocking down the other two. And I don't think I heard enough about why Home Improvement isn't the best Home Improvement show. So I got to be honest, I'm going to give Billy the point. So Billy, congratulations, you win the first speed round. So well done.
I think the important takeaway, Langley, is that we wouldn't have comedy jokes if it weren't for Bob Vila, apparently. We introduced the architect for which all sitcoms are crafted around. I learned something today.
Yes. You didn't
it was
know
really
that?
close for me. What were people saying on Twitter, guys? Were they giving any other answers? I personally like Love It or List It. That's one of my favorite shows when I watch Home Improvement.
Yeah, we got David Bowman saying, I liked Small Spaces.
Is that the one where they make the little tiny houses?
Morgan Robinson.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
mean
a tiny house show.
Yeah, tiny house. Okay, sorry.
It's a tiny. We eat that stuff up.
Property Brothers. That's all we could think of.
Nice. Hi, Morgan.
People checking in.
Did Morgan get back to? Did he go home already, or is he still here? Morgan visited the United States. He was on OSP last week. It was pretty awesome, guys. Check it out. All right, let's do round one. So Billy, you won. So you get to choose the marching order for the first round here. So who would you like to go first? Who would you like to go last?
Let's do Brian, Langley, and then me.
Brian, Langley, and then you. All right, so Brian, you're going to go first here. Round one. Wonder Woman crushed it in the theaters this summer, but did you know she got her live action start on television in 1974 with an ABC pilot starring Kathy Lee Crosby? Linda Carter, not actually the first Wonder Woman on television as you might think, but this inspired our first question. So in the history of television, who is TV's most badass woman? And we are going to start with Brian. Who'd you pick?
My pick is FBI agent Dana Scully from the X-Files.
You want to say a few words real quick about Dana?
Aside from being an FBI agent, medical doctor, fighter and facer of all sorts of monsters, aliens, supernatural phenomena, also cancer survivor, a mother, and possibly has superpowers. I don't know. I've seen this woman take a lot of beatings and survive a lot of close calls and sneak out under the radar and always make it through to the other side. So I just think that it's really hard not to put Dana Scully at the top of your badass list.
Awesome. Then let's switch it up and give Langley a go.
I didn't know if you wanted to get everybody going. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give Langley a shot here, and then we'll get back to the fight. Langley, who did you pick?
Well, I went with a different take on this question. You said, who is the most badass female in television? And when I thought of the question and thought about it, there's characters on TV that are great, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of women that are badass, depending on how you take that term, you know, whether they're physical or whether they're intelligent or anything. But for me, hands down, when you look at television history, there's one woman who basically pioneered and changed television and made it into what we know today, and that is Lucille Ball. Not Lucy McGillicuddy or whatever the name of her character was on I Love Lucy. Lucille Ball herself. She is the ultimate old school dame who could kick ass in the boardroom as well as outside with other men. And she could also go toe to toe with men in a industry that is still male dominated, except she did it all the way back in the 40s. And I'll go into details exactly as far as what she did specifically that was so badass. But my pick is Lucille Ball.
Awesome. And then Billy, who'd you pick?
Yeah, so I chose a character because I assume that's what we were talking about. I'll crush you later, Langley. So Brian, I want to go back to you. You said that your character she's a badass, she's a mother, she's a cancer survivor. Guess what? She is a pale imitation of my badass mother, who is a cancer survivor. And actually, we don't even know if she's going to survive the cancer. And that makes her even more badass because she keeps going with the mission, even despite her cancer. And that is Sarah Connor from Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. This may be blasphemy, but I'm going to say it anyways. Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 Judgment Day, in my opinion, is not a fully formed character. It is a very big leap from Terminator 1 to Terminator 2. What Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles did was that they took the classic badass kind of definition, the muscles, the guns, the running, all that stuff. And what they did was they added the humanity to it. They added her holy, I don't know what's happening. I think Langley's shoveling some coal there.
I turned it out for a moment. There you go.
But what the show did was they focused on how she has to be a mother to John, how John is the love of her life and her number one priority. They also threw in that she's terminally ill. That's why they had the time jump, because she was not going to be alive. So she's dealing with, I have to keep my son alive. I have to keep myself alive. And that makes her such a badass because of she's carrying all this emotional weight. She's literally carrying physical weight, the way that she is so physical and aggressive on the show. And that's why I think that Lena Headey, she's just a badass actress in general, but she brought life to Sarah Connor that I feel the movies didn't give her. And that's why she's TV's most badass woman.
All right, guys, fight it out.
I think it's funny
off,
to call Dana White or Dana Scully, I mean, a pale imitation. That's ridiculous. Your character is clearly riding the coattails of Linda Hamilton, who did the heavy lifting on that, who brought real pathos to that character. You know, in Sarah Connor Chronicles, they weaken Lena Headey so that they can make Summer Glau a stronger female, you know, physical badass. She takes the reins of that show. Lena Headey's pushed to the back. She's waffling about what to do about the Turk and things like that. Also, the cancer subplot in Sarah Connor Chronicles is because it's a thing in T3, and they hadn't decided that they were going to scrap that terminology, that whole subplot yet, and so they were still tacitly tying it into the movie universe. So it's not really so much that they gave her more to deal with, it's just that they were saddled with what was left over from T3.
But you're confusing what's important about continuity with giving her some more emotional baggage to have within herself, and taking a backseat to Summer Glau. I don't know if you've seen the show recently, but I literally just watched the first 5 episodes in the last couple of days. Lena Headey is doing almost as much heavy lifting. Now, literally, she can't lift a Terminator, but she's on motorcycles. She's taking out Terminators herself. To say that she's waffling in the background, I just don't think that you know the show very well, if that's what you have to say about that. The Terminator, the Sarah Connor in the movie, and I don't want to make this argument too much, but the Sarah Connor in the movie is just ice cold, and she's all muscles and she's all guns. In this show, you have the muscles and the guns, but now you also have the emotional heart, and you have her really taking care of her son. Here's my problem with Dana Scully. Dana Scully is supposed to be you said she's a doctor, she's an FBI agent, she's a skeptic. She's not really good at any of them. She's decent at best. When they gave Dana Scully the show because David Duchovny had some addiction he had to do, the show tanked. It was terrible. Dana Scully says in one episode,
the show was terrible. Robert Patrick was excellent on that show. They flipped Dana Scully. They gave her a new role to play. They let her become the believer. They gave her a chance to change and grow and become a different person.
Bro, you're proving my point.
Don't bro me.
Her character is all over the place. Her character is all over the place. In one episode, she's like, I don't believe
art. She grows. She continues. She changes.
Come on, man. Come on.
Okay.
Dana Scully.
Let me give Langley a moment here. I know he's itching to get in. Langley, what would you want to say?
Okay, gentlemen. Okay, you both brought up interesting points about both characters. Number one, just for the record, Billy, no one thinks that Sarah Connor from that TV show is better than the one in the movies. And you want to know how you can prove it? You know how you can prove it? You know how you can prove it? The fact that no one watched the show. She's so compelling, and she's such a great character that the show barely lasted 1.5 seasons.
It lasted 2 seasons, and it was too expensive to make. That was why it didn't last. It was just too expensive.
That's it.
And by the end of that second season, they're not even focused on her, on Sarah Connor. They totally give up on her and make it all about Summer.
No, not correct. But Langley, go ahead, continue.
People mention Sarah Connor. They don't think about Lena Headey. She's great on Game of Thrones, but this is a show and a role that is a derivative of an iconic film character. Now, as far as Dana Scully is concerned, sadly, I'm going to have to agree with Billy. She was wonderful when she was paired with David Duchovny. They had a team. The minute that team split apart, it became boring. Now, you could blame that on the show's writing, but in this case, I would say as a character, she wasn't compelling enough without her foil. Now, let me explain.
Well, maybe she wasn't compelling, but she stayed a badass through all those seasons. Whether you like those episodes or not, she maintained her toughness. She kept on keeping on. She kept fighting the good fight. She picked up the sword from David Duchovny when he was, too busy, whatever he was doing, hiding in a cave or whatever. And she was the backbone of that show. And she went on those. She continued those missions. She continued that fight. She continued to be a badass and a survivor.
Which also
can we talk about Lucille Ball
over and over ago? Well, no, hold on before you go into Lucille Ball, because I want to get. Hold on, because I want to say, I want to list something here for you, okay?
Sure.
Star Trek
today,
Mission Impossible. None of these shows and countless others would exist without Lucille Ball and Desilu Productions. Desilu Productions became Paramount Pictures, and at the time, she was the first and the best female that ever helped create a studio and created and was behind some of the greatest television shows of all time, including her own, The Twilight Zone. Basically, she built Hollywood. She built the ground that your characters simply tread on.
All right, here's the thing, dude. If the question was who is TV's most pioneering woman, Lucille Ball, great choice. But you said it yourself. Desilu Productions, you are rewriting history, my man, because Lucy doesn't work without Desi. It is a partnership. So when Lucy is on her own, look at the Lucy show later on. Look at all the projects she did after I Love Lucy. They were not as successful because she was she was part of the Lennon and McCartney of television. You cannot say that, first of all, I'm not saying that she's not a pioneer, but what I am saying is you can't rewrite history and take Desi out of the equation. That doesn't make her a badass. It makes her smart. It makes her a pioneer, and we're grateful for her contributions. But I feel like you brought a knife to a gunfight, dude.
pioneer or a comedy icon or originator, but I think since the wording of the question is badass, you have to give me something to hold on to. And like,
Okay,
you know,
I can give you
think
that.
if you I agree that behind the scenes she wielded her power, and I understand that, but you can't take away that some of that's sometimes seen in a negative light too. You can't like just bypass the fact that she was difficult to work with,
But see,
and that she made things hard on people. And
she's only difficult because she has a vagina. Period. If she was a man, both of you would say she is badass.
I think men and women can
why?
be difficult. I don't think
Badass?
a man acting that way would be any less difficult. I'm not
You
saying
know
it
why
wouldn't
she
be
was-
perceived
But guess
differently,
what? You
but I
wanna know
think
why
it's
she's
still difficult.
badass? Because she created Desi. Desi wouldn't even be on that damn show without her. She is the reason her first show
I don't know, man.
succeeded.
I think if you were to ask certain people, that wouldn't be true. And again, I
No,
feel like
it's
Go
a
ahead.
fact. Okay, it's a fact that they did not want Desi Arnaz to be her husband on that TV show because
but
he was
again,
Cuban.
you're talking. You've made a point to make this about the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm
Okay.
going behind the scenes, and I'm saying that you are trying to rewrite history and say that this was a Lucille Ball thing that she brought Desi along with, and that's just simply not the case. Also, yeah,
No,
the
I'm
question
saying- here's
is
what I'm saying.
the question was bad ass, and I'm sorry if you want to talk about bad ass. It has to be a badass character, and Lucy, if she was so badass behind the scenes, why didn't she give Lucy Ricardo a more badass character instead of being like
Because
the stereotypical wife at home who just annoys the husband and has to have the men save the day? That's not very badass on the show.
in the 1940s, it was. And also, I didn't
So
know.
Langley, real quick, make this your final thought. So why is she the most badass, Langley?
Because all of the things that you're mentioning are things that nowadays we take for granted and say are stereotypes. Oh, she was the good wife, and she was annoying, and she was a pushover. No, she was not. If you watch the show that she was on, she was not a pushover in the context of when that show was on. She did things on screen that were pioneering, but she was badass because she demanded that of the producers and the studio that carried the show, and later on the shows that she helped pioneer. Where Desi is concerned, yes, they were a partnership, but I'm telling you, no one would take him seriously if she didn't have the goods before she actually married him. Nobody would care about this guy who was a Cuban band leader. And she together, yes, with her, yeah, they were a partnership, but her decision to be with him in the first place is a pioneering decision and is badass in and of itself because it went against what was happening at the time in television. It changed the game, and she demanded to change the game every single time she made a decision. That's why she's badass, because without her, none of your characters could exist or be badass in a stereotypical, I'm going to wear big old leather boots and kick stuff kind of way.
All right, Brian, final thoughts for Dana Scully.
You know, there is only one redhead badass who's going to make it through this round, and she's on my side. That's Dana Scully. You know, we heard a lot of weak-ass takedowns of the show, but the thing is, the character is never weak. The character is 100% strong. She's Mulder's equal from the very first episode. She carries herself with respect and dignity. She goes through all these things. She fights a variety. You know, she might not fight a legitimate Terminator, but she fights killer robots. She fights killer computers, aliens, monsters. She survives it all. And I just think that over her complete arc as a character and how much we see of her, there's just no question. Original. She's not an imitation. She's her own thing.
Billy.
Yeah. So I feel like with Lucille Ball, I said it before, I've said it again. I think you were fighting a different fight. I think you came talking about most pioneering woman in television. To say that without Lucille Ball doing what she did, we wouldn't have like tough female characters down the road with the leather boots is asinine. Thank you, Lucille Ball, for what you did, but most badass is just not a label I would put on Lucille Ball. There's so many wonderful ones that I would, but not that one. Dana Scully, she is the least interesting character on that show. She is supposed to be a skeptic, and yet, depending on the episode, she can believe in clones and hold one in her hand, and then the next episode she says they aren't true. Well, you already said yourself, the show was still good because of Robert Patrick when David Duchovny left, but you didn't say because Dana Scully carried the show in his absence.
I did say that, actually. I said they changed her character.
No. My final thoughts, you're done. So what I will say about Sarah Connor, what I will say about Sarah Connor, you guys are trying to knock me for originality, that she didn't originate this character. Okay, well then, if in that type of logic, then I guess Christian Bale would be a terrible Batman because he wasn't the first to play him. What she did was, in the Terminator 2 movie, you had Linda Hamilton, who was strong, but John had to take care of her, which was an interesting dynamic. But on the show, what makes Sarah Connor so badass is that now she is being the mother that she should be. She has emotional baggage because of her son. She has emotional baggage because of everything that she's seen and she's been through. She has emotional baggage because she allowed herself to fall in love with someone and had to leave them for her own safety and for the safety of her son. And not to mention, yeah, sure, we have Cameron, but to do some Terminator stuff. But that's, again, you're stepping on your own logic. Are you saying that Linda Hamilton is not badass because she had an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator with her the whole time? You can be a human character and be a badass in the Terminator franchise. Lena Headey killed it in the fronts that no one else's Sarah Connor has.
All right, guys, well done. Wow, that was a good fight. So I saw during the fight, Tom and Kimber lost their connection. So we got this going just long enough so that they could get back. They are here. I know they missed a few minutes of the fight, but guys, what did you think? What are the facts that we need to check, and what did Twitter have to say?
Well, first off, we were able to hear like everything but 30 seconds of it. We just pulled it up on YouTube.
Okay.
Was it a little bit more than that? Yeah. Well, I think I heard amount of the argument. Talk of failure of being due to budget, also during the writer's strike. So that's
your signal is hiccuping in one of the most glorious ways, because you're starting a fact and all we're hearing is the end of it. So you're like, oh, and that's the reason for this. And then, like, it hiccups through all of it. I'm very sorry. Do you guys mind starting over? Your signal was cutting in and out, and I didn't get to hear really anything of what you were saying as far as the facts you were presenting.
Yeah, I'll try that again. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you. Sorry.
So Billy mentioned that, you know, season 2 of Terminator failed because of reasons. That was also which hurt a lot of shows.
Writer's strike.
Writer's strike. We gotcha.
There you go. Sorry.
Did you? I guess you want to know who we thought.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, normally, guys, this is fan fiction. Welcome to our technical difficulties that exist no matter how many times we do this show. So I apologize in advance. Yeah, every time you guys start like getting into everything you want to say, it cuts out. So I apologize.
Right.
We liked Brian from what we heard.
Awesome. What did Twitter have to say?
Wanted to know what Billy is eating. Many people surprised that nobody went Game of Thrones. I myself would have chose Brienne of Tarth. There was lots of love for Cersei, another Lena Headey character. Holmesy liked Buffy. Janine shouted out Olivia Pope. Lots of great choices out there.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at us as a channel for all of our wonderful things. So this is a really tough fight. Langley, I like how you took this a different way, and I think no one can argue. Lucille Ball's contributions to television and what she did for TV. I just think that there are arguments against why she's a great pioneer, but not necessarily badass. I think they got you really hard on that. Not that she's not a badass woman, she is, but not in the, I think in the context of what we were trying to get out of the question. So unfortunately for me, it is, or fortunately for them, it is between Brian and Billy. I think both of you guys brought some really great arguments to the table. I'm just looking at my notes. Brian really hit on how Dana Scully is really everything. She gets, she's a great mom. She's a great FBI agent. She's a cancer survivor. And then Billy kind of gave you this very similar background for Sarah Connor. So you guys kind of evened out there. I think what really did it for me was the argument that Summer Glau is kind of more badass on that show called Sarah Connor Chronicles. But Billy did have a really great hit on Dana in that, Brian, you said Robert Patrick's on the show, and then he doesn't, you didn't say Dana is the reason that the show's so good. I think at the end, and it's really close for me, I think that Brian really encapsulated how Dana was an overall really strong character. Sarah Connor Chronicles only went a season and a half, 2 seasons, and I think that Dana had to do it longer and successfully. It's real close, but I'm giving Brian the point. Congratulations, Brian.
Yeah. Whew.
Ooh, that was close.
At least I won't get shut out. Oh man.
So what did Twitter have to say? What did they? Did we have a poll? And I think you guys are muted, just so you know. So I cannot hear you. There you go.
Yeah, we got the poll. People are agreeing with you about the Sarah Connor. She was not shown much love at all, 9%. We got Lucy and Scully at a deadlock at 45 each.
Wow.
And I do want to say there was another poll before this, but that I screwed up. I put Xena on it as well as Dana Scully. So Xena won that poll by a landslide.
Yeah, Brian was originally trying to pick who he wanted to go with, and actually switched from Xena. And sometimes switching.
I got screwed up, but
sometimes switching can get you screwed in a game like this. But it was really close, and even though she didn't poll well, dude, that was a great fight for Sarah Connor. Well done. Let's go to
Billy. I love Sarah Connor Chronicles. Actually, full cards on the table now. I actually really am a big fan of that show.
I love that show.
It's such a great show. I wish it would have lasted longer, but
wasn't that a Fox property? Because they don't have
it
was. They don't have a history of canceling shows before they can get good, like Almost Human or Firefly or about.
No, they never do that. So.
All right, guys, so let's move on to our second speed round. Everybody will get a chance to pick one. So, Brian, I'm going to go to you for this round. You get to choose from one of the following categories: Dr. Evil, Glowing Whiskey Blind Hoodie, The Season is Here, or Fact Checker.
I'm going to go with Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil it is. All right, guys, here's your question. Langley, make sure you unmute yourself because you are muted. I want to make sure that you get a chance to yell in case your answer is better and first. So there we go. All right. The Dr. Evil category question is, who is the best villain on a superhero show?
Kingpin.
Season 1 Reverse Flash. Tom Cavanaugh version.
Okay. Brian and Langley.
I thought I got in there already. Kingpin.
Oh, Kingpin. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Brian. Thank you.
Got in there.
I heard. I actually heard Billy first. You may have said it at the same time, but I'm going to go Billy first with Reverse Flash, and then Brian with Kingpin. Langley, did you have a pick?
That's fine.
Langley, say something just to make sure I can hear you. Oh, you can't. There we go. Hang on, Langley. It's my fault, buddy. It's my fault.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, Deathstroke from the 2nd season of Arrow.
Okay, you were all wrong. It's Kilgrave from Jessica Jones, but it's all right. You didn't pick it. We'll go with this. So I'm going to go with Billy first, Brian second, Langley third. Billy, whenever you're ready, you have 30 seconds. Reverse Flash.
Tom Cavanaugh is just an absolute master. He's at the top of his game. The thing that's so great about season 1 Reverse Flash, Ebarthon as Tom Cavanaugh, is that they got you so invested in the character of Harrison Wells for it to rip your heart out to find out that he is indeed the Reverse Flash, that he is the villain. It not only was great for the audience because we got lulled into a false insecurity, but it was great for the Flash show because it turned everything on its head. Everyone, the guy who's been training the Flash is the guy that eventually wants to kill the Flash.
Okay, Brian, Kingpin, whenever you're ready.
About Marvel's quote-unquote villain problem, and the Kingpin finally solved that equation. With a 12-episode arc to match Daredevil's, they made him an equally impressive character. They gave him as much backstory and history and thoughtfulness and actual reasoning for his behavior that we hadn't seen. He wasn't some single-note character. He had depth to him, and I feel like that was the first time a villain, especially in a Marvel property, had gotten his due.
All right. Langley, Deathstroke, whenever you're ready.
Yep. Okay, I picked Deathstroke or Slade Wilson from Arrow. He started the first season as a character that was the best friend to the main character of the show, and you got to see him grow and turn into a madman who was going crazy from a drug that made him super powerful, and you got an entire season of him designing a living hell and torture for the main character as revenge for losing the woman that he loved. There was character depth there was emotion, and he was also terrifying as a villain. That show still is trying to live up to that character.
Time. All right, 20 seconds, Billy, whenever you're ready.
I think your argument for Kingpin and all this backstory, I think that kind of actually hurts Kingpin in the long run. It tries to humanize these villainous characters instead of just making them villains. Kingpin's supposed to be the ultimate bad guy, and now you want me to feel for him? That doesn't work right. Deathstroke is just another stupid Arrow villain. He's just the same as any other guy that goes mad, whereas Reverse Flash, he was your friend.
Time. Okay. Brian.
You mentioned Tom Cavanaugh as the first Reverse Flash. He's not even the only version. He's not the best version. Also, you talk about people having their hearts ripped out. TV watcher, I clocked him as the villain from like the first time he appeared on screen. Slow shots of him like looking creepy from his wheelchair. And as far as the Arrow villains go, they all kind of run together for me.
Time. Langley, whenever you're ready, you have the final word here. Deathstroke.
Okay, when it comes to the Reverse Flash, yes, there's another Flash, another person that is Reverse Flash who plays the character better. And as far as the Kingpin is concerned, I love Vincent D'Onofrio, but he overcooked that role way too much. Everybody has an impression of the Kingpin. Vanessa, I love you, and I'm going to take over the city.
Time.
Best use of 20 seconds possible.
That was fantastic. All right, guys, let's go.
I should have just done my Kingpin impression. I would have had that.
Let's give Tom and Kimber a chance to weigh in here. Kimber, why don't you go first this time? What did you think of the arguments?
You know, I was with Billy here until he said the thing about it ruining Kingpin to have like a humanized villain. I strongly disagree with that point, and it did push me over to Brian's side on this argument.
How about you, Tom?
Reverse Flash was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the best 3 Marvel villains right now are Kingpin, Vulture, and Killgrave, and it's all because they're humanized. Like we get the background of their upbringing. So yeah, I have to go with Brian on this.
I thought that was a really good fight. And you guys all kept it close too. Yeah, I think I heard a lot of a negative Reverse Flash for sure. It came down actually between Deathstroke and Kingpin for me, but I think Brian's argument was really strong. So I'm going to give the point to Kingpin as well. Brian, you get the second point. Well done. All right. So that means, Brian, you get control of round 2. Who goes first? Who goes second? Who goes third?
Let's have Billy first, Langley second, and I'll go last.
Okay. All right. So this was originally going to be my mystery fight, but I decided to switch the things around. So the fan fight will be the final today. So today, the TUFF channel is known as the Ultimate Fan Family, and we exist thanks to Screen Junkies TV fights. So in honor of the community that this show created, we want to ask this question: what TV show, past or present, involves the very best? Embodies the very best meaning of the word family. So, Billy, it's fitting then that you go first as a representative of TV fights. What did you pick?
Sure. So I picked Friday Night Lights. The reason that I picked Friday Night Lights is because there's a very broad spectrum of what can be family. I know there's, the family that you make, the family that you're born with. But the thing about Friday Night Lights is it goes out of its way. Oh, my God, there's two Langleys. The thing, they're just multiplying like gerbils, and it's throwing me off. The thing about Friday Night Lights and why I think it resonates with the theme of family is, one, it shows us so many different types of nuclear families. You have, the Taylors, kind of the all-American family, but with the real problems that real American families have. You also have kind of, some more blended families and the brotherhood of like Tim and Billy Riggins, and when Mindy comes in, plus also just the family, the brotherhood of the football, of the Dillon Panthers. I think that there's this show at its core, it's never been about football. It's about heart, and it's about family. I can't think of a better show that epitomizes that theme better than Friday Night Lights.
Awesome. Langley, one of you needs to speak. Tell us
okay.
what you think.
I apologize if the sound is really messed up, but my phone went dead, so I'm gonna have to use this other laptop. But
actually, you sound fine, dude. You sound perfect.
I do?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Awesome. Okay.
You can even maybe turn on your camera, but let's not jinx it.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. So my choice is community. Now, when it comes to the question, you said, as far as, all of us together create a fan community, which has in its own way become a family. And there are lots of nuclear families on television. There's a lot of families where you're forced into that family because of birth. But to me, I think the best kind of family, and the kind of family that speaks best to me, is the kind that you are able to pick. It's the kind where you actually decide, I want that person, whether they are related to me by blood or not, they are close to me and they're important to me as family. That's a really, really important thing. And in a lot of ways, sometimes that trumps logical connection with someone that frankly you can't stand, or having someone in your family that is because a relative of yours married someone else. That's a bond that's important. But I think for most of us, especially nowadays, unconventional families and finding someone that you connect with and deciding you're my brother, you're my sister, that's almost, to me, more compelling. And I think Community does that in spades with all the characters that it has. And I'll go into more details as far as some examples of what I'm talking about. But Community is my pick.
All right. Awesome pick. Brian, you're last here. What'd you pick?
My pick, I went personal this time. You know what I mean? When I was thinking about it, it's just the first mind when I think of a family. So I knew it had to be my pick, and that's Roseanne. This is just a show that spoke to me as a child. It's focused more on a traditional idea of a family and doesn't necessarily go outside of that. But we do get a community of people in the lives of these families that become, Roseanne takes in the boyfriends of her, people who are having troubled lives, her daughter's boyfriends and things, and they become, so we have a different seen that as much as a kid either, but this just portrayed life as I actually saw it, as opposed to what TV wanted me to see. A show like Friday Night Lights is great at giving you those dramatic moments, but I have a harder time connecting with something like that than I do with just struggling to pay the bills and dad's and your sister ran off and got eloped with some guy, and what I relate to more strongly. And I think that's when I was thinking about a show that was about family, I had to take my personal experience into it. And as far as, like I said, Friday Night Lights runs the gamut. And I guess the only thing I would say about that is that I just don't connect as strongly to kind of centered around football lifestyle, so I just don't get into that as much. Community, again, I love the idea of choosing your family members. Hell, that'd be great. But when I think about a show that shows me kind of like the responsibilities of what it means to have a close-knit family like that and help each other through things, whether you choose to or not. So that's why I went with Roseanne.
All right, guys, fight it out.
Well, first, I want to say right off the top that all three of these are excellent examples of families. But since it's called TV Fights and we're going to fight it about it, for me, I think what's most important about Community, like I said, is that you get to choose who is a part of your family. And so because of that, your motive for actually having that family is a little bit more unique. Whereas with Roseanne, yes, Roseanne was wonderful because it put a mirror up to what everybody is going through as far as hard times, and everybody has, as far as their natural family, has a tough time, period. Even those that think that their family is perfect, they're not. No family is perfect. My main argument against Roseanne is that in a lot of ways, life is so hard, I don't necessarily want to watch through the same crap that I'm going through now. And a lot of times television is a form of escapism into a world that is fun or different, or at the very least shows me something that I haven't seen before. Okay. And Friday Night Lights does that. But with Friday Night Lights, I would argue that that's a family by default. That's a family where the coach says, you're a family because you have to be a family for us to actually win ball games. Now, after a while, yes, they grow into a family as they get to know each other. But I would say that it's forced. With Community, you at least have characters that are so disparate and different. You got a racist, a Christian, a dumb jock. You've got a genius that's on the spectrum. You've got a scammer. And because they're in community college, that's the only reason why they're together, but they decide that they're going to actually be a family. They actually decide that they're going to be in each other's lives. And because of that, you get wonderful episodes throughout Community for the 6 seasons that it was on.
Billy, let's hear from you a little bit.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Brian, you said you can't relate to Friday Night Lights. You relate more to a family struggling to pay the bills and going off on elopements and daddy issues. Have you not seen Friday Night Lights? Because that is exactly what Friday Night Lights is all about. If you can relate to Roseanne and you can't relate to Friday Night Lights, I'm just going to take a wild shot in the dark and say you haven't watched enough Friday Night Lights.
Well, I guess what I mean is, like, I get that that's more of a, like, CW dramatized style of that, and I felt like a more realistic attachment to the Roseanne storyline. So I understand what you're saying.
Roseanne is taking the stereotype of like the white trash and making jokes about it, whereas Friday Night Lights took the same situation, and showed how real people deal with it. Now, here's the thing about family. You're saying that Coach Taylor makes them be a family to win ball games. Coach Taylor can lead a horse to water, but he can't make them drink. The whole show is about reaching out to the person next to you and finding that common connection so that you two can better go on in life together. That's what family is all about. It's about, a family isn't just a mom, a dad, and brothers and sisters. A family is a team. And that's why a team of football players who have to, just like one is a racist, they're all intolerant. They're fighting over the same girls. They're fighting over money. They're fighting over lifestyles, but they have to come together to find the best in each other so that they can achieve a common goal. If that's not family, I don't know what is. Now, in terms of community, I wish that I have a very obnoxious, older, racist family member. I wish I could boot them out of my life after 4 seasons, but I guess I can't do that. They're all really, they're kind of nasty people. Maybe Abed and Troy are kind of the real links, but everybody, the thing about why it's not the best definition about family is because the community study group, they really just all kind of want something from each other at the end of the day. Whether it's a better grade by studying at its core, or even if it's like a sexual thing with sexual tension between different members, they stick around each other because it's kind of lack of option. When you're talking about, go ahead, I'll let you go.
But in a weird way, you've kind of hit the nail on the head. These are all characters, like you said, that are dysfunctional, and in a lot of ways they are not likable, and they all are looking for and need to find a family, a place where they belong. And you find out
it's almost like they're a type of Suicide Squad.
They're not looking, but that's the thing, they're not looking for family. They're looking for, how can these people help me do what I need to get done, as opposed to a real family, which is, how can we all get on the same team to accomplish the goals that's best for everybody. And like I said, I feel the same way about Roseanne. Roseanne, at the end of the day, is that family doesn't represent the best of families, because they're all kind of nasty to each other. Yes, there is nastiness in families, but Roseanne just lacks the heart that makes an amazing family.
All right, so
Billy,
real quick.
These points real quick.
Well, all right, but I do want to say this too. I want to get towards final thoughts, and one of the things I want to hear when we get there is I want an example of your show. If you can give me one that most represented family and the idea of family in the actual show, a moment from the show. But go ahead, Brian.
Let me speak real quick to both these guys, just on their takedowns. You know, Billy can slam the way Roseanne portrays people and call them stereotypes, but then my family was a stereotype. I looked in that, and that show held up a mirror to what I was seeing. And maybe like I was saying, and maybe that mirror had some hard things to see, but it was showing me something that I wasn't seeing anywhere else. And it was showing people getting through what I was getting through, and their families dealing with what my families were dealing with. And that's what spoke to me the most. As far as most emotional, there's two. It's so hard. A really great 2-episode arc where we find out that Jackie is being abused by her boyfriend, and Dan goes over and confronts the guy and ends up getting in a fight with him and going to jail. And there's just so much going on in that one, and that really shows not only the way that families want to take care of each other, but also the consequences of family members who act out and go and do crazy things, and sometimes things aren't easy, and you don't have a choice on what you have to deal with. There's another great one too, where they have to put Dan's mom in a home because she's schizophrenic, and again, just real that show you what families have to deal with. Yeah, there are funny quips and jokes, and it gets dark. That's how I get through too. You know what I mean? That maybe it's because of shows like Roseanne, but like I said, that showed me something that I needed to see, and that showed me the kind of family that I was a part of, and wanted to see how they made it work.
So Billy, let me get your final thoughts.
Sure. So first of all, just to set the record straight, I'm not insinuating that, I don't know how you were raised. I don't know how you lived. So I'm not trying to put down what you connect with. What I am trying to tell you is every instance that you brought up from Roseanne, like even the old, the mother that needs to be like put in the home because she's mentally not well. These are all things that were played for laughs and played for, in my opinion, stereotypical laughs. That Friday Night Lights did the exact same thing, but we saw how it would really happen in I feel like in real life with real emotional consequences. Both of you, like I said, I'm not saying Roseanne's a bad show. I'm not even saying Community is a bad show either. What I'm saying is the question is what represents family. And when you have this small little town of Dillon, Texas, there's two moments that really stick out to me that really show both the nuclear, how this show relates to nuclear family and how it relates to chosen family. The first moment is when Tim Riggins and Billy Riggins, they steal all the copper wire. They get caught. They're going to have to go to jail. Billy is expecting a child, and Tim takes the blame for him, and he gives up his life for his brother, who they have been at odds for most of the series, but he knows that his family, his legacy, this legacy of maybe this Riggins coming out will be the right one. And since we didn't have a dad, I want him to have his dad there. So I'm willing to sacrifice my life and go to jail for you. So there's that nuclear family, like, wow, like a big part of family is sacrifice. It's taking yourself out of it and doing what's best for the family. The nuclear family part, and this is a scene that makes me tear up every time I see it. It's I believe it's in either the penultimate episode or the series finale. But Coach has had the hardest time. He's transferred to a new school to get these boys on the same page because, like you said, the coach can't make them become a family. He can try everything he can, but if they aren't gelling, they aren't gelling. And there's a beautiful scene with 4 players at their hotel room on the balcony. And they're all laughing and talking. They're talking about the game the next day, the state championship. You have these 4 characters, and they're joking around with each other. They're bonding. There's camaraderie. They're talking about look how far we've come together. And we see Coach Taylor in the adjacent balcony. They can't see him, but he's listening. And he just kind of has, it's not even a smile, but it's just like this emotional nod, like, they're there. I did it. They came together. This is the family. We're going to be okay, win or lose this game, because ultimately we've already won. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose this round.
Langley, close this out.
Okay. When it comes to Friday Night Lights, you mentioned something about family. I don't know about your family, but there was no goal to my family. We weren't trying to win anything. We were just trying to survive life. And so the family that is created in Friday Night Lights, I still think, but it's all towards a goal. There's a purpose to it. There's a logic behind it. In order for things to go right in the game, we have to become a family. So I still think that's a wonderful thing. But like you said, show community, they are assholes, especially when they start out. And they grow together and decide to be a family. Nothing forces them to come together. They're not related to each other biologically. Bad times don't make them a family. It's their choice. And a bunch of assholes, like you were saying, or people who are jerks, actually find their own tribe that they're going to become a unit. And a wonderful example of this, there's 2 examples. One is Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, where basically it's all in claymation, but the real cusp of the story is that one of the characters is having a mental breakdown. And there's jokes about how some of the characters don't want to have to deal with it because they think the therapy that they're using to try to get him out of this weird state where he thinks everything is claymation. They don't want to deal with it, but by the end of it, all the characters attempt to help him deal with reality as opposed to only dealing with his imagination and his imaginary world. And in the same way that they do that and they come together for Abed, later on in the show starts with the main character having to go to school again because he lied about going to law school, and he has to take classes over again. And he wants to take the shortcut so he can get back to being a lawyer. He goes through the course of the show. The entire reason he was there changes, and he becomes a teacher. He actually decides, you know what, not only did this makeshift family that I found myself in and that I decided to be a part of, not only was it a wonderful thing for me, but it's changed my entire outlook on life and has changed my goals for the better. And yeah, they kick people out of their family, and sometimes families deserve that. Like the core, There's no logical reason as to why they're a family, except in this case, people get to pick that they want to be family, because granted, our real families, which, and you can look at Roseanne as an instance of this, real families are dysfunctional. Real families have difficult things that they have to deal with. And when it comes to television, I would rather watch a more fun, whimsical version of that than to see the hardships that my family is going through on screen week after week to remind me of, oh yeah, my life sucks. So that's why I went with Community.
I'm going to call it there, guys. I think I have enough of what I need. Really well fought, guys. You picked 3 really good options here. Let me go to Tom and Kimber and get some facts checked and see what the our community has to say. Tom and Kimber?
These are 3 great picks. I come from a small town where the most exciting thing that's happening is the high school football game. I hate it, but I can understand why people can buy in, especially if you are in sports or you like that kind of camaraderie. My friend Rich's mom is Roseanne, and she's the nicest person I know. Langley saying with Community, that's just us. So these are all great representations of family. As far as facts goes, no one really went out of lines. I don't think I need to bring up like awards or anything. They're all kind of equal. Community has a little bit less. But I think it's funny that Billy liked Troy because Donald Glover drew inspiration from Smash Williams' character on Friday Night Lights.
Oh, wow.
Cool how that little tidbit worked out. Tidbit.
Did you have a choice for?
Oh, it's Brian.
Brian got you.
It was a strong fight. It was great on all sides, but Brian won the other.
Yeah, I also got to say that I really liked all of you guys in this fight for different reasons. Langley, I by far like your choice the most personally. Brian, I thought you had a really strong argument, but I do have to say that throughout the whole fight, I'm going to pick Billy on this one.
What did the community have to say?
Sure. First of all, Ashley wanted me to let you guys know that the next BFF is, in fact, going to be about Friday Night Lights. So
Awesome.
I want to be sure to mention that for them because she can't be here. She had a great choice with Golden Girls. I was into that, personal favorite.
Nice.
Luke Cooley nominated Parks and Recreation. And TJ Dex and Nolan were showing love to Malcolm in the Middle.
Awesome.
That's a good one.
Yeah, those are good
That's a good
picks. Guys, this was a really great fight, and I think I have to echo what Tom and Kimber said here, that I think you've all picked 3 really great answers and applied them to this question fantastically. So you've made my job difficult, very, very difficult. Langley, you had a lot of good swings in this fight towards the other guys. I feel like I got the message of why Community represents family to you. I think, though, that I just didn't feel enough connection to the characters in your argument like I did with the other 2. For me, It did come down between Billy and Brian. But not to knock your argument for Community. I think that was a great pick. And it is us, basically. It came down between Billy and Brian. Billy, your argument definitely said, hey, look, just because you thought it was football doesn't mean that they don't have all the same things that, a show like Roseanne has, all the same issues. And you're right. I think you can really see that with your example as well. And I really liked your the final example that you gave about the kids on the balcony. Brian, same thing with Roseanne. Roseanne really was the show that related to the common person and all the problems that they really had to deal with. So for me, I was looking at 2 very similar arguments. And I think what swayed me in the end was Billy kept saying, hey, I've got all the same things Roseanne has. I have all the same things Roseanne has. I have all the same things Roseanne has. And then I looked at it, I'm like, well, Roseanne came first. And Roseanne, the thing that stuck with me as a father of 2 daughters, I remember that episode where Becky and the boyfriend episode, when Dan went and beat up, and got into the fight with that kid. Like, I think for me, it's your personal pick as best moment that resonated with me, and especially as a father, I remember that scene. So it was really close again, but I'm going to give Brian the point. So well done, Brian. Really good job. What did the poll have to say?
Yeah, the poll was pretty close in a way on the two runner-ups, but there was a solid lead for Community at half the vote. Friday Night Lights at 22 and Roseanne at 28.
Wow. It was a really close fight, guys. That was really, really well done.
Yeah, great fight. 2004, Dan Connor was voted number 13 out of TV's top 50 greatest dads.
He should be number 1. He's so good. I love Dan Connor.
I don't know how they're going to bring him back for this revival. Killing him off was a mistake.
Why do they have to revive it at all?
Well, just show that needs a revival. Ignore that last season and just start fresh and just, you know what I mean? Just chop that last season off and retcon the whole finale.
How about we just
like
not
talk about a show that
again
ate
and come up with a new story about a new
so
family?
Hard in the end. Like, it was such a great show, and then it failed so hard at the very end. I think this is one time I'm actually for it.
Well, guys, let's move on. We're doing decent on time. We're almost done, so let's keep going. Brian, you got to choose. Billy, you had to choose Langley. That means you get the final pick here of the category in the speed round. We're gonna have glowing whiskey blind hoodie, the season is here, or fact checker.
Okay, we got to go with fact checker, right?
I think we do
because of Billy. So let's go with fact checker.
All right, fact checker question is: what is the best TV game show that asks a question?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Right.
Okay, now if you guys did yell something out, it may have gotten cut off, so you might have to say your answers again. I heard Billy.
The Price is Right.
Jeopardy? Can I use that?
Yes, you can. They ask a ton of questions. Well, yes, it counts. They're questions.
Okay. I was just okay.
All right. Brian Langley. All right, so Billy, I heard you first with Millionaire, so we're going to go with you. You have 30 seconds whenever you're ready. I assume he's thinking, but I'm just going to make sure.
Brian, I'm thinking. Hold on. I want to.
I looked down and I didn't know the acknowledgement.
I already know what these two guys are going to say against mine, so I'm trying to see if I can counter it early on.
To me.
Get out ahead of it.
Give me some tips.
We're saying the best show that asked the question is easily Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. At its zenith, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was appointment television for everybody. And the thing that was so great about it is everyone could play this game. You could play it at home. The tension was so high. You were second guessing yourself at home. The brightest stars burn out faster, because I know you're going to say, well, my show's been on for forever. Your show's been boring audiences forever. Mine was, it came in hot and then it left, and it left a lasting impression. Hell, we have a whole Oscar-nominated movie about it.
Okay, Brian, for The Price is Right.
Sure, it's been on for 40 years because it's boring. We talk about Ask a Question. This show asks one question: how much is this thing? How much does this thing cost? It asks that same question in a million different creative ways. You get to see a bunch of different games, not a person sitting in a chair or standing behind a podium looking at a box of squares. You get people playing colorful games, classics like Plinko and Mountain Climber. You've got variety to the type, the way they ask the same question. The different products that you get to see.
Time. Jeopardy, whenever you're ready.
Jeopardy is the ultimate question show. So much so that they actually give you the answer and you need to know what the question that matches it. Both of your shows are great, but in essence, they're carnival shows. They're circuses for people with lower IQs. Price is Right. How much does it cost? All you have to do is look at the price tag and remember, milk costs $2.32. And then as far as your show is concerned, it burnt out because it was too goofy.
Billy, you have 20 seconds to rebut.
Price is Right is not about asking the question. It's about the game that you get to play afterwards. No one cares about asking the price question. You have to get through that first. With Jeopardy, that's a fraternity of douchebags just trying to all prove that they're smarter than you. I don't care. It's boring as hell. With Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that one question could be life or death. I mean, that's where the drama comes in, that asking that one question. Does my friend know this question? If I eliminate one,
Price is Right.
Yes, Langley, memory works the same way, whether it's about a fact or about a price. You still got to know it. You still got to remember it. And during the games, not only do they still ask the cost, but then you have other elements to take into play. You have strategies you need to implement. Yeah, you know what I mean? You still have to know the products. There's products in the games, too. These people have to have a vast knowledge of things from cars to household items.
Time. And Langley, close us out. Jeopardy.
Jeopardy at its essence is about the actual questions and about knowledge, your superior knowledge, what you actually know. As far as Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, to even get to the questions, you have to go through luck if they pick you to actually get on the show. And same thing for Price is Right. Price is Right, yes, oh, it's fun. Yeah, and they do actually, you know, ask questions about products, but it's consumerism.
I'm not listening. Okay. So, guys, good job. Tom and Kimber, let's go to you. Who did you think won that fight?
I thought it was Billy.
And why? Can I ask why?
I just thought he had the best argument. I thought some of the other arguments kind of got lost halfway through.
Cool.
He especially got me with it's the most boring part is answering the question. And I just started thinking about the Plinko machine, and he was right.
Everyone's favorite game.
Kimber.
Too. He's also the only one who picked a show that's title is also a question.
Well, no, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is a question.
Oh, that's
That's what you just said.
That's
what you just said.
Right.
So I'm going to fact check the fact checkers and just let you know that it's the game with the yodeling guy who goes up the mountain that's the best game in Price is Right. Mountain Climber, not Plinko. And
yes, prices during Mountain Climber. You have to know the price of things in Mountain Climber too.
Billy, what got me the most too was just like you really sold me on the intensity of every question and its importance in Millionaire and how that just plays into it. So I'm going to give Billy the point, which means Billy has 2, Brian has 3. Langley, you are off the board, but you can be spoiler here in the final round as we go into our mystery fight question.
By the way, I love that no one corrected me or stopped me when I was like, and there was an Oscar-winning movie about my game show. Slumdog Millionaire.
No, yeah.
All right, guys. So let's do it. Let's get this final fight in. We will not have a tie today. Someone will walk away with the winner of the game. This is a 2-point question, as a reminder. And this is our fan-submitted finale. Nolan Dean on Facebook wrote, in honor of Billy Business being on the show, what TV show should do a crossover episode with Home Improvement? And we're going to pitch it. So this is a pitch round, guys. Billy, you won. Do you want to go first, second, or third?
I want to go third.
Third. Who do you want to go second?
I made Brian go first last time, so I'll make Langley go first this time.
All right.
Okay.
And then, so Joe would like you all to know that his burn notice pitch was pretty damn awesome. And if you check in tonight on Fan BFF, that airs live at around 7 o'clock Eastern, you'll get to hear his pitch. He's gonna tell you guys what he would have done. But we're gonna start with Langley. Langley, what show did you pick? And give me a brief pitch on how it would go.
Okay, well, it's funny because the reason I picked This Old House is because for this round I picked Extreme Home Makeover. Now, the reason I picked Extreme Home Makeover, yes, it relates to home improvement. It is, you know, they make over a house for someone who is in need of a new home, and it's a reality show. What I propose is platform crossover where you've got a reunion film or show of home improvement, right? Crossed with Extreme Home Makeover. And you add an element of the internet to it as well. You use, you know, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever live action. So basically, for a piece of the actual production of this show, you would actually have the character using their phones, using their, actual cameras to get the action for the internet. So it all goes on live on the internet, while at the same time, you also do it live on television. So it's a live television event. And of course, it's got to be staged, but it's a reality show that is staged from what people say anyway, so it can still work. But here's how the actual crossover works. So Tim the Toolman Taylor, he's retired. He wrote a memoir that did really, really well. He wrote a book that he called More Power. And it was all about his greatness as a host and as a home improvement, phenomenon, that he did all himself. And he also, his son, the oldest son, now owns a hardware store. And he bothers his son a lot because basically he has nothing to do and he likes to tool around and mess stuff up inside the actual store. So the son, the other son, the middle, I can't remember the names of their sons. I just know there's the oldest one.
You're breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart.
I actually know the actors' names more than I remember the actual kids' names, so bear with me. Yes, exactly.
Back in time, Brian.
But basically, his middle child decides, you know what, Dad, you need to stop being retired. You need to get back into the game. And what I'm going to do is I've got some friends that will set you up because there's a needy war vet living in town, and they're going to do an extreme home makeover. But it's also going to be your chance to get back into the game. And he wants to do that, but the problem is he can't get Al to join him because him and Al have had a falling out years ago, back after the show ended, because that memoir that made him so much money, he completely left Al out of it. He basically, being the jerk that he normally is, he's basically in the memoir said the show was all his idea. All the messing up stuff was done on purpose. And he never even mentions Al Borland, who basically kept the show afloat all those years. So he goes on Extreme Makeover. And so at the same time, you have an Extreme Home Makeover episode that treats home improvement as if it's a real thing, and that Tim the Toolman Taylor is a real character. And of course, in home improvement tradition, he screws up. His big thing is he thinks it's a war vet. He's coming home from war. He's a man's man. He wants to make sure, he's gonna screw up and make all these appliances that what he thinks a man's man needs. And then of course, it's going to turn out that the war vet is in a wheelchair and it's a woman. And he's going to embarrass himself, but not only on television, but now he's embarrassing himself on the internet. His grandchildren are sharing how he screws up royally to everybody on the internet. And he quits in a huff and gets pissed because he feels like a fool. So
all
now
right, here's what I'm going to do. Hold it there. I'm going to get to I want to make everybody's pitch come out, and then I'll give you a chance to close it out because I want to make sure we hear everybody with time. So number 2 then is Brian. Brian, give us your pitch. You got about 3 to 4 minutes here, but go ahead.
Okay. So, in a post-tool time world, Tim is just like everybody else. He's around and cable television starts to explode. So he gets offers from, I don't know, like A&E or HGTV to do a new show where he goes and refurbishes houses. And that's his, that he's going to go on to different locations. They're going to take these old properties and make them in big, beautiful new things. So one of his first stops is in New Mexico. He's out scouting locations and he finds this old house that's perfect, but when they start to tear it apart, they find that the walls are filled with cocaine, and he's run afoul of the local cartels.
Oh, cocaine. Got it.
They've got him over a barrel. They've got him over a barrel now. They want to use Tim the Toolman Taylor's celebrity and his new show to. He's going to be running around to different locations and traveling. They want him to drug mule for him. They want him to move money for him. So, life imitates art. He needs to get the work of Jimmy McGill, Saul Goodman, and he's going to cross over, and Jimmy is going to help him turn state's witness against this drug cartel and turn these people over and make a safe retreat for himself.
So you're choosing Better Call Saul.
Yes.
Nice.
My pick is Better Call Saul.
Now, the best part about this has been looking down at the little window and watching Billy's reaction to people massacring the show he loves so much. So
I'm getting extremely triggered with these assumptions of Tim Taylor's personality, which is driving me bananas.
So you going last is fantastic. What was your pitch?
So unlike you guys, I decided not to make this like a reunion or a post show. This is kind of an Elseworlds alternate universe where Home Improvement would have crossed over in a 2-episode, 1 hour big event during sweeps on ABC of Home Improvement and Family Matters. The episodes would aptly be called Home Matters, which is part 1, and Family Improvement, which is part 2. So as we know from our Family Matters lore, that Carl is a member of the Tool of the Month Club. He wants to be a do-it-yourselfer, but he's not a do-it-yourselfer. He is, in his own way, as destructive as Urkel whenever he tries to do projects. Meanwhile, Bud Harper, who is in charge of Tool Time over at Benford, he wants to start expanding the market for home improvement. So he's like, for Tool Time. So he says, let's take you guys to Chicago. Well, Tim and Carl know each other from the Tool of the Month Club, and Carl says, hey, I need to remodel my kitchen because Urkel just blew it up. Why don't you stay with us here in my house, and you could do a Tool Time remotely remodeling my kitchen. So the Taylors show up to the Winslow house. So first of all, the A storyline is you have Carl and you have Tim, who Carl is very cheap. Tim lately in his marriage has been acting very boring and old, and both Jill and Harriet they kind of conspire like, why are our husbands so cheap and so boring while they're trying to do this project that they are massively going over on. But you guys forgot a key important part of the show is the B storyline, which is you got to have something for the boys to do, because a lot of times the boys are the drivers. So what you do is, this is where the real fun of the episode comes in. You have massive amounts of love triangles. All right. You have the older brother, Zachary Ty Bryan, or Brad as we call him on the show, has a massive crush on Laura Winslow, but she actually likes Jonathan Taylor Thomas, or Randy as we call him on the show. So they both want, Brad likes Laura, but Laura likes Randy. Then you have Myrtle Urkel coming in, because this is sweeps. We have to get in as many big Urkel characters as we can. And she has a crush on Randy. So there's all sorts of hilarity with the comedy of errors and the love triangles. And then Mark and Steve are both working on a science project. This all culminates in one big epic third act of the second episode, where there's a New Edition concert, and that they all try to get each other tickets for the New Edition concert. And that's how Carl and Tim prove that they're not old and cheap. And that's where all the, wait, you like him? Wait, she likes me? Wait, we like each other? It all goes down at the New Edition concert. Special performance by New Edition during Sweeps Week.
All right, so let me ask you a question here before I open this up to everyone. What is your handle on Reddit, and where can we find your home improvement fan fiction?
I'm actually publishing scripts. They will be available on Amazon.com.
Nice. All right, guys. So basically, give me a brief overview of where you're going here. Fight it out, and then we'll see who's the best. Go ahead.
Well, despite Billy's personal love and knowledge of home improvement, I think we live in a world now where nobody is itching to see more single camera sitcoms. That is a dead genre. The laugh track, that stuff is gone. We're in an era of prestige television now. This is an era, and I want to bring the Tool Man into that. I want to step up his game.
You did not listen to what I said, because I said mine was an Elseworlds alternate universe where this happened during the heyday of both of their shows.
It's meshing. It's still going to be the same type of show. It's still going to be a single camera sitcom, because it's two of those type of shows.
You don't even know what you're talking about. Oh my God.
I'm sorry, producer Billy. I'm sorry. But you know what I'm talking about, right? A bunch of people standing facing a wall that doesn't exist, having a conversation on a set. I'm talking about a real prestige television show where we get to see Tim Allen stretch his legs as the Tool Man, take this character to a new level, you know, and really like show some depth to it. We get to see him deal. You talk about a B plot with the boys. The boys are getting kidnapped by the cartel. They're held, tied up. They're getting waterboarded. That's your B plot, okay? At the same time, Saul's trying to work behind the scenes. He's trying to do his sleazy thing and get help. We're bringing in characters from both shows.
Here's the thing. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have with both of your pitches. First of all, Langley, I love you, dude. You're great. I don't know what the F you're talking about. There's Snapchats and it's kind of reality. It's kind of not. Your pitch is confusing. It's all over the place. I don't know what is happening in your pitch. And if you wanted to say, okay, well, it's kind of like a scripted thing where he scripted goes to Extreme Home Makeover, dude. That's like every episode of Tool Time. It's like an Extreme Home Makeover.
And you're going back to, in this day and age, instead of trying to do something that's a throwback to something that people don't want anymore, you're actually trying to update Home Improvement. Home Improvement works not with drug cartels and violence. It works with him trying to actually put stuff together, Home Improvement style, and screwing it up. What you're doing on ABC is a cross-platform situation where you actually do the show live. Everybody loves live television right now. So at the same time, you're going to actually do a sitcom that's live, and you're going to...
You keep breaking up, so I'm not sure if you're done, if you're still going.
The Tim the Toolman Taylor is a real person. See, I want to actually take those characters and update them now, as opposed to see them in their heyday and pretend, match him up with one of the most annoying characters in the world, Urkel, and actually match them up and basically do your fan fiction. I want to actually take these characters and push them forward into now.
You might be updating it, Langley, but you're both doing the same thing, which is just more of the same. More of Toolman doing his Toolman thing.
But that's what you want to see.
See, growth. I have 9 seasons of Home Improvement or whatever. If I want to see that, I want to see something different. Cross it over with a show that gives me something to watch.
Here's the thing. Here's where you're both wrong. First of all, Langley, he would never ever short sell Al, because if you remember, he almost quit the show when they were going to cut Al. He knows that Al is just as much a part of Tool Time as you. So the fact that he would leave him out of his memoir, I don't know what character you're talking about, but that's not Tim the Toolman Taylor. Also, it's too bizarre to try to have this weird scripted narrative for a fake character where you have to explain all this stuff and then mesh it with the reality show. It's too weird. Brian,
is it too weird? They did that on Home Improvement all the time.
Clear. No, they did not do this all.
What I'm saying is, how is it weird to show him on a reality show? Both the reality show and the actual scripted show are all scripted. It's not actually going to be a reality show.
There's a reason why Tim the Toolman Taylor didn't show up on This Old House, because it would have been too confusing for that audience. Like, wait, is this a fake character that's coming to our real show? Is this script? I'm confused. Let me go on to Better Call Saul. But you tonally have this completely 100% wrong. This would never, ever fly. I don't want to see Tim the Toolman Taylor mixing it up with cocaine people. The boys also aren't that stupid. And as you know, if there was going to be anyone involved, they wouldn't get kidnapped, because Brad does so much drugs already. There's a whole episode about how he does drugs.
Just because the tone is different,
you guys are so
does not make it wrong.
You are completely changing the core concepts of these
characters in a different light.
It took them over 8 seasons to build.
He was just in over his head, just like any other episode. He's in over his head here too. He's in over his head.
All right, look.
Here's the thing. Here's the other thing. Your episodes exist because this question exists, because they have to. There's no reason. I clearly laid out why my episode exists. It's for sweeps. It's a stunt. You have all the guest stars.
You don't think this is a stunt?
You have Myrtle Urkel.
Why I wouldn't have watched it in the 90s, and I sure as hell wouldn't watch it now.
The only thing you've laid out is why you love Home Improvement.
Yeah, you laid out your knowledge of 90s sitcoms. I know all the characters. I know that.
Your weird arguments. There's a huge difference.
No. And as far as sweeps, you don't think that doing Home Improvement live as a revival show, which is really big right now, would not do well in sweeps and also bolster another
Tim
show?
Allen is running his mouth like a crazy person, so now would be the worst time to do a real life Tim Allen.
It's a perfect time for him to do my show, where people will be like, "Wow, Tim Allen really isn't the guy we thought he was. Oh, here he is on this new dark show. Let's check out. Maybe this is closer to the real Tim Allen.
What do you guys
Let's get a taste of what he can really bring."
Final thoughts, because I'm about to walk out of here. I'm getting triggered, bro. You need to call final thoughts. You need to call final thoughts.
You can tell the amount of triggered Billy is by how many times he says "bro." That is the level of triggered that Billy is at.
All right, first of all, if you had watched TV fights and heard Billy from the couch saying, "Oh, I love Home Improvement," and didn't believe him, I think you have definitive proof in this moment. He's
just flat out angry that this question exists.
All right, look, I'm going to call it because I think I have what I need. We're going to go to Tom and Kimber real quick. Would you like to guys weigh in and tell us what you thought?
Yeah, wow, man. That was something to watch. It's hard for me to not choose Billy, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, just because like he was so passionate in this round and he clearly thought about it a lot. Some may say too much. So I'm gonna have to go with Billy in this argument. Sorry, guys.
Tom, weigh in.
Yeah, my answer for this was Buzz Lightyear Star Command.
That would be interesting.
Nice. Fun.
Oh, Toy Story action.
But definitely, yeah, I appreciate what Brian and Langley are both doing. I picture Langley's as kind of like an Office, but like live, but with having like a stunt character. So I like the concept, but Billy's vast knowledge of all the characters he's talking about. I almost was going to give the point to whoever just talked about Wilson, but no one brought him up. So
I was about to, but I kept getting cut off.
I have to hear what the internet
Classic.
thinks of our round here. Thank you, Nolan, by the way. This was a fantastic question.
We had some fun stuff. Real quick, just some alternate suggestions. Corey Williams threw out Red Dwarf. Kim Hanley liked Modern Family for this round. Shuggy Russell says he's never seen Home Improvement. All of his knowledge from it are from mentions on TV fights.
Oh, no.
And Janine says that we did not get Spicy Joe today. That's Joe's nickname. But we got some Spicy Billy. So
yeah, boy, did we.
That's pretty much where the internet's at.
This could not have worked out better as a final question, guys. So, Langley, I love you. I'm sorry I'm not giving you any points today. But I would like to say that the biggest thing for me, the biggest reason that you were on the bottom for me was I didn't hear anything about Ty Pennington and how isn't that his show, right?
I didn't get to. Yes, I didn't get to.
Well, the brevity of the pitch, you got to, a pitch is get there fast and then back up. But so it came down between Billy and Better Call Saul. But I mean, come on, guys. Not only did he know Home Improvement, he knew Family Matters. He knew all the characters' names. I don't think anybody could argue that the passion wasn't there. Billy gets the final point, or final 2 points, which means Billy sneaks in at the end, and yet again another celebrity ends up winning fan friction. But well done, Billy.
I feel like Langley, like you're legitimately hot at me, and I apologize. I could not. I could not let the slandering of Tim the Toolman Taylor sit there unanswered. He would never do that to Al Langley. He would.
I mean,
never
the question was who
Al.
knows the most about Home Improvement. I guess was the question. I guess I should have prepared differently. I didn't realize.
Well, you should.
You know why he would do
Brian? Because you didn't know you were going to be fighting today. But I still appreciate your.
Brian, you did really well considering you knew you were fighting 5 minutes before this actually started. So
yeah, congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, no, congrats to Billy. You're the winner, and you did it legit. I can't take anything away from you. As always, I'm humble in defeat. I have to be.
But guys, let me. I was going to say something, and now I forgot what it was. So. Whatever. Now I know what I was gonna say. So Billy, if you guys were watching on Twitter a couple weeks ago, Billy decided that he was going to try to take our TUFF belt because he couldn't win his own. And I said you could come on the show, and if you could win, you'd get a shot at it. So maybe after your wedding, which is coming up in October, you'd like to come back and maybe sit down against Kimber and have a shot at maybe taking the title?
Kimber, if you're ready, I'm pretty sure they won't be all home improvement questions, so you won't have to suffer my wrath, apparently.
Yeah, I certainly hope not. Home improvement is definitely not my forte, but I'm down for that, and congrats
It's
on
few people's forte, I'll say that.
But guys, well done. So let's take a moment to go around the table and talk about where we can find you on the internet. Brian, thank you again for filling in for Joe. Tell us where we find you, buddy.
Pleasure, as always. You can find me on Twitter at Hurst. You can find my show right here on the TUFF channel, DVD Bunker. We're a little more sporadic than we have been. We're trying to get them out bi-weekly, but still having a lot of fun doing that show. And our 50th episode actually coming up pretty soon. And I'm hoping to have something a little different for that one. And so check it out.
Thanks again, dude. I appreciate it. Langley, it's so glad we actually got to see you.
I know.
The signal was terrible before the show, but it was fantastic once you came back on.
Well, yeah, you can find me on Twitter as always. And by the way, you want to know why he would have done that? He would have left Al out is because Wilson was dead in my pitch. You would have hated that.
You lose.
Twist.
But no. But yeah. You can find me everywhere at Langely Neely. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad that I'm actually able to do this again. So, and I'm glad to do it with you two guys. So,
and we're so glad to see you healthy again, man. Thank you for coming on and being a part of the show. Billy, please, we already know TV fights, but tell us everything. Where can we find you, man?
Yeah, I just want to say first off, thank you, Jack, for doing this. This is fun. Langley, when he was one of the first fans that reached out to me before I even started working at Screen Junkies when I was on an episode of TV Fights. So, Langley, thank you, man, and it was a pleasure to actually finally get to talk to you. I feel like we tweet a lot, but I never get to actually see you. Brian, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for filling in. I feel your pain, obviously, this week. We both being at a slight disadvantage, but we both got pretty far, all things considered.
That's right. No, yeah, exactly. No shame in my game. I appreciate getting the chance to get on here with you. It was a lot of fun.
Solidarity all around. Great fights. Thank you, guys. At Billy A. Patterson, you can yell at me when you don't get through at Skype.
And guys, don't forget he also has a podcast called the Con Smash podcast. It's really awesome. I recommend you check that out as well. You can find that on iTunes, right, Billy?
Yep, we're on iTunes.
Speaking of iTunes, and I'll get to Tom and Kimber here in just a moment because they have an announcement. But speaking of iTunes, guys, thanks to Becky Miller, one of our fans, we are now also on iTunes. So if you want to download us as a podcast, just search for Fan Friction, and you can listen to the show while you drive, while you do things that really aren't appropriate, whatever. Download the show. We're a podcast now. Woohoo! So Tom, I don't know where I was going with that. Tom and Kimber, please tell us where we can find you on the internet and tell us about your new show.
If you're listening to this in a dark room, congratulations. Anyway, we're Odd Shape channel. We do a bunch of things. Odd Shape Panel is our every 2-week show where we just did Morgan Robinson was able to stay with us for the whole show, the Purple Dawn. And the one before that, we did Doctor Who, and Ralph Cornett stopped by for a bit. So that was a lot. You were there too, Jack. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
And we also have our season finale of Game of Thrones recap this Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Night's Watch.
Yes. And Wednesday, we have our Twin Peaks recap, Twin Peeps, which will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the week after, that's the last one. So we're going to be doing some turnover. Should I tell them?
Yeah, do it.
All right. We have a new show coming to TUFF. We were doing our live Odd Shape panels and then editing them down with clips and stuff for the show. But everyone has such varied answers, and I love it, that it's just so hard to edit. So we're doing a new show called It's a Twofer. We're still doing the OSP Lives, but It's a Twofer is a double bill review show where we go and pair 2 films together like a fine wine and cheese. And the first one we're going to be putting out is Flash Gordon and Guardians of the Galaxy. And that will be coming out Thursday. And I believe there is a promo on the channel if you are interested in that.
Yeah, so guys, please check that out. Awesome.
Already Miss Morgan. He did, in fact, tape an episode of It's a Twofer with us, and that will be getting released as the 2nd episode. So there's more Morgan to come.
Guys, the concept is really awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Please tune back in on Thursday. Check that out. It's going to be great. I'm Jack Shipley, JRS Pitboy 2008 on Twitter. You can find me there. Also, we have TUFF channel on Facebook, so you can look for us there and follow. Subscribe to this channel here. We love the Screen Junkies. We do the show because of the Screen Junkies, especially to Screen Junkies TV fights. So again, Billy, thank you. Please extend that to Roxy as well and the whole team. This show exists because of TV fights. This is where we first met as a group and create a channel. So we thank you for that. And guys, the information on where to find the Screen Junkies is in the description below. So please go check them out. They're pretty damn awesome. We will be back next Sunday. We're doing 1 week next Sunday, where our special guest will be Jay Washington, and Brian will be returning to face him along with another super fan. So check us out there. That's it. That's our show. I want to thank everybody again, and we will see you guys in a week. Have a great one, and thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.